Premier League action. It all kicked off at the London Stadium yesterday. West Ham beating the leaders at the beginning of the weekend. Chelsea, Newcastle finally got their first league win of the season against fellow strugglers Burnley. Late drama at St Mary's. Brighton with a late equaliser against Southampton. Liverpool got all 3 points. Late drama at Molineux as well. Divock Origi on target there. Manchester City 3-1 winners against Watford. Then today, 4 goals between Leeds and Brentford. Patrick Bamford's first goal in 2.5 months at the death, ensuring Leeds took a point. Ralph Rangnick's regime got off to the perfect start. 1-0 winners against Crystal Palace, as we saw. 3 goals for Spurs against Norwich City. And as we have just watched, Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa coming from behind to beat Leicester City by 2-1. And the good news, there's still one more game to come this weekend. Everton taking on Aston Villa tomorrow night. So this is how the Premier League table currently looks, and Manchester City are at the summit. Liverpool second. In fact, Chelsea the only team in the top 6 that lost this weekend, meaning they moved down to third. Villa also go into the top 10 above Leicester City. Let's look at the bottom of the Premier League table then, because as you can see, Leicester there in 11th on 19 points. Now at the very bottom, Norwich prop it all up after they lost at Spurs. Newcastle 19th. All of the bottom 3 locked on 10 points, just 3 points from safety. Now, what a relegation battle it is shaping up to be. But after the break, we'll be...
Esri, first of all, a big congratulations. That win now takes you above Leicester into 10th. Just tell us what that means to your club, Jacob.
Yeah, it means great. Before the game, certain results went our way. So before kick-off, the gaffer was like, "Oh, we can push into the first half of the table," and we got the 3 points and got the job done.
Esri, 2 goals from you. The first goal, I'm sure you were thinking, I'm sure that was my goal.
I didn't want to claim it, I thought sorry for Emmy. I thought I was offside. I didn't know until after, so yeah, 2 goals and I'm happy.
What about the goal that wasn't a goal for you, Jacob? Because in hindsight, do you feel quite hard done by?
To be fair, I've not seen it back. At the time, I thought it was a goal. I think it might have been a little bit harsh to disallow it, but it is what it is, really. Yeah.
A very political answer, well done.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the performance as a whole then, because it didn't look like an easy game, it looked like a battle at times, Esri, but tell us a bit about what it was like.
Yeah, it was tough. I think Leicester had more of the ball. We know how much of a good side they are. They've got top quality players, but we knew that if we stuck together, we kept a compact shaped, it would be hard for them to break us down. And we saw that they didn't have that many chances. They created a bit in the first half, but second half we was very compact and done well to keep the shots from Emmy minimal.
How much did you focus on set pieces ahead of this game?
We practice set pieces every week before every game, so. We got a new set piece coach, Austin. He's brilliant, so I got to shout him out for my goal.
In terms of what that win means to your club as well, you've now got 9 points in the last 4 games under Steven Gerard. So what is it personally for you guys? You feel that he's doing for you as players?
I think since he's come in, he's gave us a boost. Obviously, before he was here, we lost 5 games on the bounce. He's come in, training's been intense. The standard's gone up. And like you said, we've won 3 games out of 4, so yeah, looking good at the moment. Strikers
want to take a few hints from you in terms of finishing, perhaps. Will you go and give them a bit of a lesson in that, Esri?
No, I won't, because prior to my 2 goals today, I kept missing in front of goal. Wednesday night against City, I missed in front of goal, so I'm just happy I got the 2 goals and got a win.
Guys, congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
Well, the 2 main men for Aston Villa there, Ezri Konsa scoring 2 goals for the first time in his career in one single match. Jacob Ramsey, unfortunately, not getting the goal that he thought he was going to get. On the balance of play, Tim, when we reflect on that match, do you think Aston Villa did deserve all 3 points?
Yeah, I do. I think Leicester had the best of the first half an hour. But they always look to throw it on a counter-attack, Aston Villa. I don't think any team really controlled it until the second half. I felt like it was Villa counter-attacking and Leicester were wide open, never got going, never got any rhythm, passing rhythm going. They're missing Tielemans massively. Obviously at the back they look, without Fofana, I think they look like they're going to concede all the time. They have now conceded too many goals from set pieces. That's 10. It's the worst, joint worst with Crystal Palace, which is not good enough. Brendan has to try and address this. In not only that, the open play, they have to try and create more chances. he's made a decision to leave Jamie Vardy on the bench today, and it's backfired on him, because he's got his eye on the Europa League, very important game. But for me, I think Aston Villa were very, very good, played at a high tempo. They'd have to tweak it somewhat when they play against top teams. I mean, Leicester are having a really average period at the moment. But yeah, I think on the balance of play, over the 90-odd minutes, I think you'd have to say that they deserve the 3 points, Aston Villa.
Karen, I think at one point in the studio when we were watching it, it was described as being a bit like a basketball match. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, it was. It was end to end. No, we spoke about control in the earlier game, but there was no control in this game whatsoever. It was attack from both sets of teams. I think I agree with you there, Tim. I think for the first 30 minutes, Leicester should have really punished Villa, especially down that left-hand side. Barnes should have made more of his opportunities and maybe not putting on Vardy from the start. They didn't take those chances, and then Villa grew into the game. But they were so aggressive, Aston Villa. There was 5 in attack at all times, and they were so front-footed. I watched them, against Palace. They were totally different, really defensive-minded. So at home, he must go, we're going to absolutely go for it. But sometimes it does leave them a little bit vulnerable, but credit to them. I think the home crowd got them behind them and they got that result. So he's done brilliantly so far, Gerard.
Are we seeing in the early stages of Steven Gerrard's career at Aston Villa, 3 wins from 4 now, we've seen that tactical flexibility, because Karen talked about the fact that in away games they're set up slightly differently to the way they're set up today?
Yeah, I think they'll continue to evolve. I mean, the fullbacks were a big thing for him at Rangers. Tavernier was the one who kind of got a ton of goals, ton of assists. You saw that with Matty Cash today. He literally covered the whole right side on his own. And that allowed Ramsey, who played in the front 3, to come in and play really now. He took up a lot of really good positions, and I thought he played really well. But I think Stevie will want to play different, especially when Danny Ings comes back. That will affect Buendia's position. He's got Liam Bailey, who's a really, really good player. So I like the group of players that Stevie G has, but I think the one thing you saw today was there's a lot of motion in the side. They flood forward, but the problem is, like Tim said, when they play better teams, they could probably concede. So good signs for Stevie G. I think they're playing really, really well. Yeah, good signs for Steven Gerrard and Aston Villa. Let's take a look at how they won it then, starting with Ezri Konsa's first goal. And initially, we weren't quite sure if he got a final touch on this. I'm not so sure how convinced he was either, to be honest, from that post-match interview, but it was his goal, and deservedly so, Owen? Well, Gareth Southgate was there, so he's going to be claiming it. So anytime a centre-back can get a double, you'll be delighted. And he just gets the faintest touch. You don't see it on that angle here. It's just here. It just moves a fraction, and just see it come inside the post there. And look, he does touch it, and anytime a centre-back gets up there, you see him, I think, after as he runs away, he's patting on his chest saying, it's mine, it's mine. So he'll be delighted. And then to get a second one, I think they scored the most goals on set pieces, joint with Liverpool. So good on set pieces, and nice for him to get on the end of it. Let's take a look at the winner then as well, because, like I said, he's never scored 2 goals in a game in his professional career. But will Leicester be quite frustrated at the manner of this goal?
Absolutely. Tim? I mean, it's a good delivery, but Schmeichel gets himself sandwiched there between the 2 Aston Villa players, and he cannot let that go in at his near post. That's a poor goalkeeping error. He chose not to have anyone on the post. If anyone's on the post standing there, then he hasn't got to come across and cover so much distance. But Konsa can only score there. So the only place he could possibly score was down low. And I think Schmeichel will be disappointed he never kept that one out. Yeah, you can see afterwards they panned to Kasper Schmeichel, and he certainly didn't look very happy. We actually heard from Jacob Ramsey speaking alongside Ezri Konsa, didn't we? And he said he thought maybe it was a little bit harsh with his disallowed goal, but he hadn't seen it back, as they said in the interview. I think he was just saying the politically correct thing at that point. Let's bring in former Premier League referee Dermot Gallagher for clarification once again. Dermot, we spoke to you at half-time on this one. Everyone's been getting their rule books out, I think, to confirm what you said. But for you, it was the correct decision. Can you just explain why again?
Well, as I said to you at half-time, Kels, the minute Schmeichel puts his hand on the ball on the ground, he's deemed to be in possession of it. The law says if the goalkeeper has his hand on top of the ball, on top of the ground, he's deemed in possession and he can't be challenged. And as the ball breaks loose, he goes for it, he puts his hand on top of the ball. Ramsey goes to kick it already, gets the ball in the net, but it's disallowed quite rightly. I think Paul Tierney alerted Michael. Michael went over on the VAR and had a look. And they come to the right conclusion, because there's the law in front of you. It's covered in the top piece. And at the bottom it says a goalkeeper cannot be challenged by an opponent when in control of the ball with a hand, which is the top 2 lines in the second paragraph.
Yeah, let's take a look at that goal then, because as we can see in a second, Kasper Schmeichel does have one hand on it, and that's the crucial part of this, Owen.
Yeah, he has a hand on it, but I don't think he has control of the ball. And I think there's a difference. And Ramsey has every right to go for that ball. So I understand what the rule says, but there's no way on earth Ramsey's not going to go for that ball. I think he has his hand on the ball, obviously, and I understand what the rule says. And if that's the rule, then maybe it's right. But I don't think he has control of the ball. I think there's a big difference.
How do we define control in that instance, though?
Well, if you only have a couple fingers on the ball, there's no way it's in control. And if it's available, so if there was a player on the pitch and he had his studs on the ball, you'd go and challenge for it. And I don't think, if he had control of that ball wouldn't fly out of there. You know, his hand would still be on it and it would move fractionally. That ball flies into the net. So in that sense, I understand that what the rule says, but obviously Ramsey has every right to go for that ball because it's a 50-50.
Yeah, both managers will be pleased with both of their players in that situation because, as Owen said, Karen, Ramsey had to go for that ball, and equally so did Schmeichel, and probably Schmeichel's reaction is maybe what's also kind of made the referee and it go to VAR.
Yeah, and I think when it's slowed down, it makes him look like he probably has more control than he actually does. I think it helps Schmeichel when you slow it down, but like Dermot's alluded to, that's the rules. But I think Ramsey's got every right to go for it, and I feel bad for the young lad, but it is the rules, unfortunately, for him.
I can always tell when Tim isn't quite happy with a decision or something we've seen. Dermot, you'll have seen this face many a times. Tim is frowning at us.
No, it was new. I mean, you learn something every day. I think that was a new law for me, you know, to see. I agree. I don't think there was control. I think if Ramsey doesn't kick that away, that spills. If he waits another split second, Kasper hasn't got control of that ball. He doesn't gather that. That spills out of his control. So it's a split second, he's got his finger on the top of it, and Ramsey does well, anticipates and smashes it through. And now Kasper's not only has he got to pick the ball out of net, but also a couple of fingers. So I think, look, listen, when they freeze it, it always looks like it's the correct decision. So when they played it I would like them to play it to Michael Oliver in real time, and you could have seen that it was almost simultaneous when Ramsey got there and Schmeichel had his hand on it. So I don't think there was any time. Perhaps they should change the law, and we call it the Sherwood law. So we have to keep it. We have to keep it another, maybe possibly 2 seconds. Dermot, with hands on the ball.
You got the power to sort that out for us, Dermot?
I think I listened to what all three said, and I can see the point. But I think this was brought in, Kels, because of the danger to the keeper. It's felt that the keeper goes to put his hand on the ball and he's vulnerable. It's a bit different to a player putting his foot on the ball, where you can challenge with your feet, but with the keeper with his hand there, the likelihood of a forward coming in trying to take possession of that ball was deemed dangerous, and that's why it was introduced. And there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers in every law, and I think today Schmeichel's been a winner and Ramsey's been a loser. That's how the law's set up sometimes.
Dermot, if Kasper had made the save, but his hand and the ball's not on the ground, but he's got it in one hand there, and then Ramsey comes and kicks it out of his hand, would that be a goal?
Well, it's so difficult to explain this, Tim, because it's has he got control of the ball is the thing if it's not on the ground. Once it's on the ground, as we said, he's got his hands on top of the ball, that's covered. If it spills loose, it's then, is it against his body? That's covered. If it's saying his hand like that, and he's got it in his hand. But at other times, really, it's a matter of deciding the referee, is it under his control? And that's the subjectivity of the game, isn't it? So many laws are, subject to the referee's tolerance level and his thinking of how to interpret them.
So does it have to be under control? And if it does have to be under control, surely when they freeze the VAR, it obviously looks like it's under control because it's not going anywhere.
Well, the difference there, Tim, it's not that it's under control, it's the fact that he's got his hand on top of the ball on the ground. And that's what the law covers. It's quite clear that if the ball is on the ground and the goalkeeper puts his hand on top of the ball, he is deemed in control of that ball, irrespective of whether you think he's got control. There, at that point, just as Ramsey goes to kick the ball, he's got his hand on top of that ball. You see here, there, at that point, he's deemed not to be able to be challenged for that ball. It's such a moot point, as you say, is he going to spill it a bit later? But at that point, he's deemed to have control of that ball because it's on the ground. As I say, it's because of the danger element, and therefore, unfortunately for Ramsey, once he challenged for that ball, a foul will be given against him.
Dermot, thank you so much for clearing that up. I think we could probably be here all evening and Tim would keep trying to persuade you that we need to bring in Sherwood's Law. So I'll let you go. Thank you so much on both occasions for clearing it up. As I said before, every day is a school day, and I think we've all in the studio and probably around the world learned something about that rule tonight. Thank you, Dermot. Right, let's move on now to look at some of the other incidents from the game. And Leicester did have a penalty shout in the second half of this. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who came into the side for this game. What did you make of this, Karen? Because there was no on-field, it wasn't pulled up on field, but VAR looked at it and they said there was nothing wrong with this challenge.
I think he did slightly tread on his foot, but I think he's going down before the contact. Like, he's going down, then the contact's made, so I think he's looking for it, and I don't think there's enough in it to warrant a penalty, if I'm honest. It's a touch, but I think he was looking for that, saw the foul was coming in and tried to get a penalty, and it just wasn't there. You're agreeing with that, Tim?
Penalty.
Oh, you're not agreeing with that?
Penalty, Dewsbury Hall gets to the ball first and Luis just treads on his foot. I think if the referee, Michael Oliver, would have given the penalty, I don't think it gets overturned either. He was looking, I think he's almost too close to the incident. So for me, that's a penalty. That is, he's not made contact with the ball. Dewsbury Hall has, see where the ball goes, there, and then he treads there on top of his foot. Penalty.
We talked there about things maybe looking different in slow motion. We've seen a lot of angles there. Owen, what's your final decision?
Well, Michael Oliver couldn't get any closer, could he? I mean, he's literally involved in the tackle. I think Tim's right, he touches him, but I think he just goes down a bit too easy. He definitely gets there first, but I think Michael Oliver, he sees it so clearly, and he must think Dewsbury Hall, his body language going down, maybe a little bit before, but he definitely gets there first.
Aston Villa will maybe feel quite fortunate, but Steven Gerard is the happier manager at full-time. 3 wins from 4 for him now as Aston Villa boss. Let's get his post-match thoughts.
Well, Stephen, first of all, congratulations. You seem as out of breath as your players did.
Yeah, you do kick every ball on the side. It was a tough game. And obviously it went right to the wire. I thought we were... Seen two sides of us today. Second half we were outstanding to a man, all over the pitch. Started winning our duels, winning the second ball, started to compete better. But in the first 45 we gave the ball away too much, we were too open, and Leicester caused us too many problems on the transition. So a lot for us to look at as well.
In terms of the goals that were scored, Ezri Konsa obviously getting the first one. To get that 3 minutes later, he did get that, by the way. He did. Okay. Just got a foot to it. To get that one only a few minutes after conceding the first goal, were you pleased with that reaction? Yeah, it's really important. I thought Leicester started really well. I think that was a combination of them having good players and dangerous players going forward, but also I thought we were too passive in too many areas of the pitch. When we were making passes, we were loads of sloppy turnovers when we were vulnerable, when we were open. So I wasn't happy with our first half performance at all, so we had to give them a few home truths at half time, and the reaction they gave second half was much more like what we want. Just before half time, Jacob Ramsey could have scored a goal. We did score a goal, got disallowed, got overturned by VAR. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, VAR get many looks at it from the side. Obviously, as the manager of Aston Villa, you're disappointed and frustrated. But we have to respect the officials and VAR. They have a better view at it. They get the opportunity to see it more than once. So we just have to get on with it. But I thought second half we had 2 or 3 really good chances to kill the game at 2-1. I thought Ollie was fantastic second half. That chance when he's gone through. If he lifts it over the keeper, maybe we can finish the game a lot quicker. And that's the reason why we had a few nervy moments at the end.
Emi Martinez stopped a brilliant opportunity as well. Doesn't always get a lot of credit in the goalkeeper side of things. Well,
look, he was much more busier in the first half, but I thought as a team and a unit we defended his goal a lot better second half. They've had one big moment. It's a good header, but it's a top save. But against a good team like Leicester, the way they've been coached, to just give one chance away in the second half, that's not too bad.
How big a win does this feel? Because what it does is put you above Leicester. It's also a local rivalry in a way. And, of course, we can't not mention the fact that it's a win over Brendan Rodgers as well.
Well, look, if we can find the second half performance over 90 minutes, because we had to ask for that at half-time against Man City, so we've still got loads of teething problems. We'll review the first 4 games, but to take 9 points from 12 is a big return from the players. So they deserve a lot of credit for that, but there's still loads of work to do on the training ground. A few are still not sure and committing properly to what we want, just because they're not sure and it's a little bit different for them. We've got a full week now into Liverpool where we can get back on the training pitch and iron a few teething problems out, and then hopefully we'll be better come next week.
That next stop, Liverpool, any sentimental thoughts in your head?
None. none at all. Just want to go there and try and win and try and take what we can. You know, for us, we're not competing with Liverpool in terms of the level we're both at the moment, but we'll certainly go there and give everything we've got. We took City to the wire, and I believe we should have took something out of the game with our second half performance. So we go there with confidence and belief, with 3 wins out of 4, and we're going to try and make it as difficult as we can.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, no sentiment, Stephen Gerard says, when he takes his Aston Villa side to Liverpool next weekend. He couldn't really take them to his former club in much better fettle, could he? They're up into 10th now in the Premier League, 3 wins from 4, as we've said.
Yeah, they're going to be very confident going into the game, but it's Liverpool. Stephen's no fool, you know, and Gary McAllister, they're going back there as well. They've got a week to work on their team, and they're going to have to work on something a little bit different to what they showed today, because if they play as open as they did and they didn't compete in the first half, that game will be over against Liverpool. You know, there will be no retrieving that game. There will be 3 or 4 up by half-time. So, yes, it'd be difficult, but I'm sure Stephen realises that this is not, you know, this is not against any old team. This is Liverpool. Liverpool are going to be right to the wire to challenge for the title. So they're going to need to be better. They're going to need to improve, but certainly they go there with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, let's analyse what was good about that Villa performance then. And what Stephen Gerard said then in his interview as well, Karen, was the fact that he saw 2 sides, but he really liked what he saw in that second half. What for you was better in that second 45?
I thought there was more protection in front and they stopped the counter-attack from Leicester, especially down that left-hand side. But I did think it was interesting, he said that there's a few players that aren't really adapting to his style he's bringing into training, which I thought that was quite interesting. I don't know if that was a little tell-off to them. But in the first half, he mentioned this is him actually in the attack, getting forward. You know, Matty Cash as a right back, he was so expansive, and the bodies that they get forward. But look, if you see behind the ball, they've got better structure, and this was a difference in the second half. They're allowing Young and Cash to get forward, but there's bodies behind protect them a little bit more, and the chances are created. Again, he's got to pass it to Matty Cash there, has to pass it Ollie Watkins, and then that should have been the game over and done. A good movement from him again, checking off the shoulders, the commitment of the Villa players to get forward, but also the protection behind the ball. And as Owen said, Matty Cash was getting forward for fun. It's a good through ball, and I agree with Gerard, a nice little dink over the top for the composure. But the aggression, the individual duels, again, bodies getting forward was totally there in the second half. But again, it was about the protection numbers behind, which then stopped them from counter-attacking. But again, another chance, right wing. It was a clear theme. And look, the young lad there, he's got to finish that off.
Is this a notable difference for you from Villa under Dean Smith that you're seeing them under Stephen Gerrard?
Yeah, they play different, but they can't play like that against Liverpool because they got the 2 best fullbacks in the world. You know, they almost showed no respect to the fullbacks from Leicester. They had so much space, and if they do that to Trent and to Robertson, then they'll get hammered. So it'd be interesting to see what Stevie does, because the front 3 played really narrow, and it put pressure on the midfield 3 to get out. Doug Luiz and McGinn were the ones that had to get out to the fullbacks. So you can't do that against Liverpool. I'm sure Stevie will be more compact and play on the break.
He did also mention in that interview that he was pleased with his goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, making a brilliant save when the score was 2-1 to deny Harvey Barnes. What did you make of this, Tim?
Oh, wonderful stretch. The way he reaches it, Harvey Barnes was Leicester's best player. He pops up in the air and he makes good contact. It's almost over the top of it. I think it's just going to nestle into the net. And Martinez just reaches and gets a great fingertip. You see his spring off his fingers here. You see it. Getting your hand to it is one thing, but getting the strength and the spring in your fingers just to flick that over the top of the bar, it's a wonderful save. And it's a really important time for it.
Yeah, we saw that a lot from him last season in particular, didn't we, in his first season at Aston Villa. Well, it's time now to get the thoughts of the opposing manager. Let's hear from Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan, I imagine that's a disappointing result for you. Just tell us how you feel about the overall performance.
Yeah, I was really pleased in the first half. I thought we started the game really well and dominated the game. Our game idea was very good, looked a real threat, and my only concern at half time was in transition. Whenever the ball was dead, we would switch off, and some of that's youthfulness, some of it is guys just learning the level, to be honest, young players, but that was our only threat, I felt. And then obviously in terms of set pieces, and that's the big frustration for second half. I didn't think we got started in the game, and then but still, first 10-15 minutes you got to ride that wee bit of pressure, and then we give away a really, really poor goal from a set piece again. So it's it's killing us at the moment because we've some really, really good bits of play. Looked a good team for large parts of the first half, but set pieces is something that's a worry for us.
Is that thing that you were looking for improvement from the last games and previous ones as well? What do you put it down to at the moment? Is it the personnel that you're missing? Is it something else?
Well, it's a bit of that, but I also think, Laura, it's just do your job. Now the guys we do lots of real detailed work on our set pieces. We know that Kasper comes out the back post, Mings, they're the two big threats, but we've got to get tight to him, and just being there or around it isn't enough, and he ends up getting a free header. So that's a big disappointment for us.
There are a couple of moments in the game that perhaps penalty shouts that I wanted to run past you. The first one, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, and the second one was on Kasper Schmeichel right at the end when he went up. What did you think about that?
I haven't seen them, Laura, to be honest, so I can't comment on it.
No problem. In terms of what you did see and the positives that you can take from this, you mentioned in the first half there were glimpses and there were big opportunities for you guys. Are those the positives that you can take away?
Yeah, no, I was really pleased with the first half, apart from, as I said, the set piece goal in the second phase when it comes in. But in the main, our general play was really good. What we wanted to do in the game in terms of switching the game, and like I said, we needed to switch on in the transition at half time, so that was the focus. And then we know there's going to be spells we've got to defend it. So that's the disappointment. But yeah, there's positives to take from it. But the biggest thing we need to address is, which has been a problem for us now, is our set piece defending. It's something we do a lot of work on, but we definitely need to address that.
I mentioned on Harvey Barnes as well. Obviously, he got his goal, and perhaps something that he really deserved in terms of his performance.
Yeah, it was an excellent goal. Now he's a real threat, Harvey, and like I said, him and Patson, they worked it really well. The opportunity, and I thought this is mostly the first half we were a real threat in the game of our combination play and getting into the areas that we wanted. But it was a really good finish.
There was a moment, Kasper Schmeichel, where there was a goal disallowed in the first half, where he had his hand on the ball, and Paul Merson said at half-time it was intelligent play from the goalkeeper. Thinking about that, what did you think?
Well, I'm hearing that the rules are that if you have a hand on the ball and it's touched, then of course it's a foul. Now maybe numbers of years ago when Mercer was playing, that would have been deemed that, but the guys are telling me that is the rule. So so we got it.
I think it is the rule. I think, though, once the save has been made, perhaps that negates the rule, and that's something that we'll ask him as well. We'll ask Kasper because we know his interview's coming up next.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, overall, in terms of where you are in the league now, obviously you dropped down a place, lots to work on, like you say, but moving forward, these areas of correction, how much of a concern are they now with the mounting points that you're dropping?
Well, I say mounting points, but we have lots of games. It's one where lots of positives to take going forward. Of course, we want to win every single game. But now we just have to keep working, looking to fix the problems. You can see the players, their attitude in the game, the energy in the game was really good. But it does sap the energy and confidence when you consistently lose the goals that we're losing. Because, as I said, in the last numbers of games, that's what it's been, and it's really, really hurting us. So we have to find the solution to that.
Thanks, Brendan.
Cheers, thank you. Thanks.
Well, just 1 win in 6 in the league now for Leicester City. A pretty honest post-match assessment there from Brendan Rodgers. What did you make of his comments, Karen?
I thought he could have been more honest. I thought for 30 minutes, great. The rest of it was poor. And I think over this period, there's been just so much vulnerability to their sides. The spines kind of fell apart, and it just seems really disjointed throughout the team. And I feel like he needs to shake them and get a grip of them and be like, stick together, be hard to beat, have a clean sheet mentality. He said on there about the set plays, well, just do it. It's not like you've got the time to set up, you can organise, but who's organising, who's pulling people in, who's making them accountable? And I think maybe he does, and he's keeping it calm in that interview, but I'd be furious because they had the opportunity, they played well first 30 minutes, didn't take the opportunities, and then for 60 they fell apart and haven't competed. So I'd be furious with him because he's done so well with them the last period, the last couple of seasons, but now they're not doing him any favours.
I thought it was quite interesting when he was asked about some of the defensive issues and the goals they were conceded. He said, just do your job. What did you make of that comment?
Yeah, he left one on a few. I think normally Brendan doesn't really say much. He doesn't, he's very protective of his team. I think he made a point of, leaving one on, didn't name anyone, but saying, do your job. He doesn't really normally say that, and it's because they've conceded the most goals in set pieces. So he'll be disappointed. And again, a lot of that is coaching, is the way you set up. And then if somebody overloads the back poach, which Konza did with Mings, nobody really picked him up. And that's, in the past, you've had people who've said, right, we need somebody there. And maybe they're missing somebody, to lead. So he was disappointed, I think, Brendan, because they've conceded some really, really sloppy goals. And defensively, they're a really good coach side, and they've overachieved last season. This season, they're having a little bit of a wobble.
They've fallen into the bottom half with that result. Is Leicester, or is Brendan Rodgers coming under a bit of pressure?
He will be. He will be from his fans, certainly. I mean, he's spoiled them over the last couple of seasons. I think they have overachieved. But he has built a good squad of players. I feel at the moment when they lose important players like Tielemans, Fofana's hardly played this season. Ricardo is an important player for them. I think they really miss him. And Justin, yeah. I mean, they've had injuries, but everyone has injuries. Just get on with it. It's the first time I've ever seen Brendan be prickly in an interview, really. He normally takes the responsibility solely on himself. He's trying to deflect it. I've been there. Self-preservation when things ain't going well, He's almost saying, you know what? Boys need to look at themselves as well. But when you have got the worst defensive record from set pieces, then the coach will take the criticism. He said, we knew Konza goes around the back post. Now it's up to Brendan to find someone responsible to do the job on Mings and Konza, which are the two best headers of the ball. And he failed to do that today. And the goalkeeper really wasn't dominant enough from crosses in the area. So, look, he's going to have to dust them down and get on with it. He's had opportunities to leave that football club. I just wonder now, does he wish that he would have struck while the iron was hot? Why, when he was hot, when he finished in fifth twice, above all them big teams in the league, winning the FA Cup, had the opportunity to leave the football club with the finances. I know it's a well-run club and they're building something there, but there's bigger clubs out there who wanted the services of Brendan Rodgers. Now, this industry is very fickle. There wouldn't be many clubs now. Just on the back of that, it doesn't make him a bad coach overnight. I'm not saying that. But it's impulsive. And people might not look towards Brendan Rodgers now. And what he needs to do now is rescue this season for Leicester, because at the moment it's slipping away.
Let's keep up the analysis of Leicester's performance. And a man who had a very eventful afternoon was their goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel. Let's hear what he had to say at full time.
Kasper, first of all, just tell us your thoughts of that game overall.
Yeah, disappointing. We had enough chances in the first half to go in a couple of goals up, I thought. But that's been our issue this year. We're having games where we aren't consistently good for 90 minutes. We go through spells, and those spells we concede in.
How frustrating is it to concede again and again from a set piece?
Set piece, open play, conceding is frustrating, and we're working on it every single day. So it's not as if we're negating it, and it's like we can say we are working really hard on it, but at the moment it's just not working for us.
Big conversation in the studio at half-time, and of course the reaction from the Villa fans, as you'd expect, was the goal that wasn't a goal just ahead of half-time, where you had your hand on the ball and you felt you had it in control. I mentioned earlier on that in the studio the guys were saying perhaps that's intelligent play. Did you have that rule in your head when you did it?
No. It's an obvious foul. I'm actually really surprised he needed VAR to give it. I'm surprised it's even a conversation. He's absolutely whacked my hand. My thumb is numb at the moment. We'll have to see if that needs an X-ray or whatever it needs. But it's a foul. It's clear.
How did your hand feel for the rest of the game?
Not very good. Like I say, we'll have to have a check with the doctors and see. But I've had hand injuries before and played with them, so that's not really an issue.
So in terms of what we were speaking about earlier on was the rule that if you make that save, it means that it's the hand on the ball rule doesn't stand. But in terms of where you stand, you were talking about it just being a flat-out foul.
Yeah, like I say, for me, it's not even a conversation, it's a foul.
Let's talk about some other potential opportunities then in the game where you might have felt that you guys were deserved a penalty. There was one where you went up late on in the game. How did you feel that went?
Yeah, I didn't. I was tripped up. I don't know. I think it might have been from my own player. I asked the referee at the end because obviously being behind me, I couldn't see who tripped me up, but there was definitely a trip. So he told me it was from my own player. So obviously that's never going to be a pen.
Well, let's take a look then at that penalty incident. Very honest there from Kasper Schmeichel saying he might have been tripped up by his own player, but you noticed there was some build-up to this as well, didn't you, Owen?
Yeah, I mean, this is the corner which Kasper has come up for, and him and Tyrone Mings, first of all, it's a brilliant header from Mings, and they have a little tangle just there initially, and Mings tries to urge him out to get out, and you see Kasper and Mings, they come together again for a second time, and he goes over, but there's another angle of it. To be fair to Tyrone Mings, he tries to defuse it. I think it's Johnny Evans that actually bundles over Kasper, and then Kasper gets an arm in his face there, but I mean, it would have been soft. That would have been a pen. I think Kasper just nailed it there. He realised it wasn't.
Yeah, he would have probably taken it if it was given, wouldn't it? But would that have been soft for you as well, Tim?
Yeah, I don't think the trip. I think Johnny Evans trips him up. I think it was one of his own players, as Kasper said there. But I think the arm in the face of Mings, I think anywhere else on the pitch, that's a foul. Anywhere else on the pitch, he's got his arm up into his face. Look, you see it there. That is a foul. The referee's got a great view of it. You know, the stages of the game, home advantage, perhaps a referee decided it was too much of a 50-50 decision to give in favour of Leicester.
What did you think of it, Karen? If it was given, it's one of those where if it was given, would it have been overturned and vice versa?
I think he's just been tripped by his own player, and then as he's going down the elbow, then catches him from that. I don't think there's nothing in it. It's not a penalty for me.
Not a
Can anybody out there